what would be your advice to people about, what they can do, and then also the situation that they're walking into when we talk about the 26 midterms?
Sure. Let me tell you what won't happen and what I, or let me tell you what Trump can't do and what I think he might try to do. So, I'm the former Secretary of State of Missouri, so I was the chief election official of the state. So I've been in charge of elections for a whole state, and I have some insight as a result. First of all,
Yeah.
voter rolls are physically kept and maintained at the local level, not even the statewide level. A Secretary of State cannot change who you voted for, even if they want to. Now, I'm not talking about just legally. Like, even if they wanted to conspire to do it, they could not do that from their office. They could not take your name off of the voting rolls from their office. That is handled by the local elections official. And in some states, that's the county clerk, and some they call him the recorder. But it's almost always a county level, usually elected position or appointed position. And that means that elections in this country are very decentralized. And in situations like this, that's a really good thing. Now, that is why Trump is saying things about nationalizing elections. It's why he wants to get a hold of the voter rolls for all these different states, because he wants to get in there and try and say this person should be kicked off, that person shouldn't be allowed to vote. It's also why he's throwing around the idea of trying to get the Congress to change the law to give the federal government the power to actually change the voting rolls. I don't think that they're going to do that. There's no indication that they are. John Thune, the Republican leader in the Senate, has said that he has no interest in that. So I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And people should, feel better about that. Now, what I think they will try to do, they will put out a lot of misinformation about the election to try and scare people away from voting, to try and make people think that, like the election's on a different day or at a different place. Um, they will try to put barriers in place to voting. And I do think that in some instances, they will probably try and create physically intimidating uh, aesthetics at the polls. They may, use ice. They may try and do stuff by federalizing the guard, but they're not going to be able to do anything that will actually keep a registered voter from walking in and voting. And I'm not saying he's not going to try. He's looking at the polls, and he would love it if there were no election in November. But there will be an election in November. And also, people should take this out to its logical extreme. Let's say he gets everybody who's dutiful to him at the local level to say, like, I'm going to mess with the voting rolls because you asked me to, or we're not going to hold the election. That's going to happen in places where his voters are. You're not going to have blue states and blue places going along with that. And so that's why I think ultimately, without major changes in the law, which aren't going to happen, he's just not going to be able to achieve.